Well, hello. Been a long minute since last we spoke. I wish I could say it was due to the fact that I was busy writing and didn't have time to keep you updated, but the truth of the matter is I allowed myself to be distracted. The release of Halo Infinite, I've been putting my long hours into that and not writing at home when I got home from work. Add to the fact that work has been picking up with the holidays and the time I'd spend there writing just isn't there. So I haven't been meeting my writing goals. Let's stop me right there. Did you catch what I was doing? I was giving you all sorts of excuses like Halo Infinite and work being just too much in the way. I was trying to make what I had been doing seem like it wasn't all that bad. Originally, when I wrote last week, I had intended to talk about the power of excuses and explain their clawing grip tearing parts of my argument to shreds. I never understood as a kid when my teacher told me to stop with the excuses. I was telling him I couldn't do something and was confused when my perfect reasons were not good enough. You see, back then, I didn't understand the difference between reason and excuse. A reason for why something can't be done doesn't exist. Think of flight. You might think a man can't fly, but the Wright brothers proved otherwise with the creation of the airplane. It might not work how we might initially think, but it is able to be done. Take common sense laws like do not steal or kill or love thy neighbor. There are reasons for those. They do not say they cannot be done, but rather that they should not be done. Enter the last 2 weeks of debauchery with Halo, and you get the picture of someone who didn't put their dreams first. The voice in my head says I'm being too hard on myself, that sometimes a break is necessary, that I just simply needed to take time away from the project. Quote I heard recently went like this: excuses sound best to those who make them. That doesn't change what they are. It doesn't change how much progress one has made, and they certainly don't help one improve. Excuses have this amazing power to push one into inactivity, to make you decide that the ground is just as comfy as your bed, that the rock hurting your back isn't actually causing pain, and that the lion will only take a single bite and decide you aren't worth eating. The absurd power of excuses really do need a nerf. They change the way you think about something, and they can blind you to success. What if something is truly difficult? A lot of things take time, and someone can't be expected to work all the time without doing more harm than good. Some things simply are complex. Just stop. Just stop. Difficulty is no excuse, and you do not need to concern yourself with impossibility. Do everything you can, no matter what excuses you come up with. Do that enough, and you'll often find that you've made more progress than you would have otherwise. Progress that excuses would have said was impossible. Things like flight, traveling across the ocean, learning another language, or writing a book. I have tried to avoid making excuses, ignoring them when I take notice of them. This was perhaps the biggest failing I had a few years ago. I've learned that excuses can turn into lies if I let them gain hold in my life. Just look at my attempts at writing. I'd often get far along into a book, only to tell myself the magic just wasn't there, that something wasn't right, that I should just start over. So, let's break those few lines apart. I'd start off with the excuse, the magic just isn't there. I'm not feeling like writing. I'm not inspired. Sound familiar? If you watched week 2 and 3, you'll note how I talked about not knowing what to write, that the magic of a new project was wearing off. In the same video, I noted how I strove anyway, fighting against the impulse to wait for inspiration. In those same logs, you'll hear me talk about how something wasn't right. Often when something doesn't feel right, we'll question whether we can do it, whether or not it's really worth doing. This opens space for even more excuses and some of their lies, that the magic just wasn't there at all. That no matter what you do, it will end the same. Why keep writing the story? Why keep trying? It will only end in disappointment. Here's what we need to do. We need to look those excuses in the eye. Stand firm and ask, shouting if need be, how do you know? How do you know this will end like that? You haven't done it. So from where does this knowledge come from, almighty excuse? When we question an excuse and dissect it, the shroud of darkness is diminished. The lies it tells us are plain to see. It has never seen success, because an excuse never will. It can only see failure, wants nothing but pity, then, if it can, it will take credit for keeping us safe. If they were a friend, a coworker, or even a boss, we would drop them like a sack covered in crap. So we have to stay vigilant, committed, and not accept the lies we tell ourselves. An excuse can only have power if we embrace failure. We are only failures if we stop trying. So as I try to fight my weaknesses, feel overwhelmed, distant, and depressed, the only thing that matters is putting one foot in front of the other, mustering for battle wherever it appears, exposing the truth each and every day, and remembering the goal is victory. While these last few weeks have been me fighting against the power of excuses and discovering their claws digging into my life, failure, it is not. They often say the first step is acknowledging you have a problem. That's because when we do that, we acknowledge the excuses we have been telling ourselves. Then we move on, aware of the full import of our actions, knowing when we choose to distract ourselves that we didn't do it because we didn't want to write, we did it because we wanted to be distracted. In moments like these, we recognize that there is an imbalance, that something in our lives is causing us to look for distraction for comfort, that anything that lets us act mechanically and subdue our own thoughts is preferable. The solution to this is simple. Find the imbalance and correct it. It may not be easy. It may be said to be impossible. But what has giving up ever gotten us? The answer is nothing. So why settle for nothing when you've already put so much work into getting something? It just doesn't make any sense. Anyway, stay awesome, and I'll see you next week.